What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another car review. This is of course the 2017 Dodge Challenger GT. Huge thanks to Harold for providing me with his brand new Challenger GT to review for you guys today. So about the Challenger GT, well, the big news here is all-wheel drive, the first muscle car to ever have all-wheel drive, and it's a really cool combination. Now those of you that live in very snowy areas that need all-wheel drive can now have one of these muscle cars, the Challenger, and it's, I think, a really interesting idea, and it's very cool, and I'm excited to see how it actually drives. But as far as the looks go, it's the same great Challenger we all know and love. It's, you know, got the very retro but still modern looks to it. I love the proportions and the muscular stance that these have, and even though this one, you know, for the GT has some different wheels and the tires are all season, so they're not quite as aggressive as your usual tires, it still looks very good, especially in this Destroyer gray paint. And going towards the back there, it's still all the same. The only difference between this and other Challengers is a little GT badge here on the front fender. Otherwise, in the back and on the sides, everything still looks very much like any other Challenger, and overall they just look awesome still. Right, so the interior of the Challenger GT, well, it's a really nice place to be, much like any other Challenger interior really. So anyway, first things first, sitting down in these seats, obviously there's different trim levels here for the Challenger GT, but for this one you have these very nice leather seats that are perforated and just feel great. The bolstering's really nice in them too. Thigh bolstering isn't too aggressive, but torso support is pretty nice, and you know, there's still seats that are going to be comfortable for just about all body types. They're wide enough to accommodate everybody, and overall just really great seats. Next is the steering wheel in the Challenger GT, which is again same great Challenger steering wheel here out of the Dodge parts bin, but that's a good thing. You know, it's a nice thickness to it, has a really great 9-3 grip, nice little 10-2 notches. You have these little paddles that feel like metal. I think they actually are metal here on the back, and they're only like half paddles, because below the paddle there you'll see little buttons for the audio controls, which is very cool to have those hidden back there. On the front of it here you just have, you know, a little D-pad to control things in the gauge cluster, and then your cruise control, and that's basically it. So I mean, it's a very clean design, and I think it's a really great wheel. It's a little bit on the larger side as well, but that's, you know, on par with all the other muscle cars as well. Next are the gauges in the Challenger GT. Again, same as any other Challenger, and I still love them. You know, I love the large retro dials you have there for the tachometer and speedometer, and then you have that very nice large digital portion in the middle that has all kinds of information, from the standard trip info and, you know, media stuff to also having a bunch of performance metrics, all kinds of good useful information, you know, G meters, you know, all the lap timers, 0 to 60 timers, all that kind of stuff. And since this is the all-wheel drive version, it also has a little display to show you what mode you're in, because these do default to rear-wheel drive and only go into all-wheel drive when it's needed, when it, you know, detects some kind of slippage, or if you're in sport or manual mode, then it automatically goes into that all-wheel drive mode. But anyway, so nice to have all that displayed up there, and so you can just customize it and have exactly what you want on there, which is great. Coming over to the center of the dashboard here, again, all the same great Challenger stuff. You got that nice large 8.4-inch Uconnect touchscreen up here, which is a really great unit. I absolutely love it. It's so easy to navigate, so easy to use, very nice high resolution. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is a really nice thing to have these days. And so overall, it really can't get any better. I mean, everything is very easy. Even the built-in nav, which a lot of companies are iffy on, these are super simple and easy, basically like a Garmin unit, and just very easy to use. So an excellent infotainment system there. And then coming down to your climate controls and a few other buttons here, all very nicely laid out, and just a few of them. I kind of like, you know, that it's pretty simple here. I just have a volume and tune knob, which are really great to have. You got a sport mode, super track pack, which brings up all your customization for your driving modes. You can custom tailor everything to exactly what you want, which is very cool to have that ability. And then you have your basic climate controls, and you can't get more advanced up here on the screen for the climate section there. So overall, just a really nice layout, and I still love the way these Challengers are set up. As far as storage space in the Challenger GT, again, same as all the other Challengers. You have a nice large bottle holder here in the door, and another little pocket here towards the back. Coming over to the center here, you have a little slot that's large enough for the key and you know, maybe one or two other small things, and that's it. Next to the shifter, you have two cup holders here, which is nice to have, and then you have the center armrest, which is very soft, very nicely padded, and then you open that up, and you have a good amount of space in there. Nothing huge, it's not quite as big as the Mustang center space here, but it's actually larger, much larger than the Camaros, so it's kind of in between the two there. And you'll find another power outlet in there, two USB jacks, and an auxiliary jack in there, so very nice to have all of that. And there aren't any exposed USB jacks out front here, so that's really all you have there. You do have another power outlet as well over on the passenger side here, which is great, you know, for running things like radar detectors, you can see here plugged in, and things like that. So overall, really good as far as, you know, places to put things and stuff like that. Backseat space in the Challenger GT, again, same as all the other Challengers, and that means it's the best out of all three muscle cars as far as roominess goes. That backseat is actually usable. I'm 5'9", me sitting behind myself, I actually have about an inch of legroom to spare, which I cannot say for the other two muscle cars, which are a pretty tight squeeze, and I actually have a, maybe a half inch or so of headroom to spare as well there. So, again, for someone 5'9" and, maybe even slightly larger, you can squeeze back there and be totally comfortable. They even have air vents back there for the passengers, a fold down armrest, cup holders, and so overall a really nice back seat that, again, you probably wouldn't want to use it every single day, but especially for smaller people, you certainly could if you really wanted to. And so overall, a really well done back seat. Trunk space in the Challenger GT is also, I would say, probably the best out of all three muscle cars. Just a really large opening. That's the big difference. The actual space inside is probably about the same as the Mustang, maybe a little bit bigger than the Camaros, but it's just this super wide opening there with that large trunk lid, so you can access everything very easily and get large objects into there very easily as well. And so overall, really well done trunk too. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The Challengers here just have a nice little Dodge key fob. It's keyless entry, push button start, so you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it starts right up. All right, so setting off in the 2017 Dodge Challenger GT. So first thing you notice, well, it's the same large proportions here in the Challenger like all the other ones, which means that going down a slightly narrower road like this one, for example, it does feel kind of big, and you feel like you're kind of squeezed into your lane a little bit, but that's something you can easily get used to, after a while of driving larger vehicles like this, because visibility is actually quite good. You have a very large windshield you can see out of. View out of the sides is good, with B-pillars that are thin and farther back there, so great view over your shoulder, and view out of the back is pretty good as well out of that rear window. Alrighty, so let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. We'll just leave it in the normal mode here so it stays with rear-wheel drive, and here we go. Kicks down, it pulls strong. These V6s, they really don't get the credit they're due, I think. This is a 3.6 liter Pentastar V6 engine that does 305 horsepower and 268 pound-feet of torque, which are good numbers, but then you factor in the weight of this car, and that's what kind of slows it down a little bit whenever you're, going on, like that was a downhill portion, so it even felt a little quicker, but, so 0 to 60 time for these is around 6.3 seconds, quarter mile time at about 14.8, which amazingly is almost identical time in quarter mile as a Honda Civic Si. They're actually the same as far as times go, and that has 100 less horsepower. But that car also weighs over 1,000 pounds less. These weigh 4,100 pounds now with the all-wheel drive system, which adds about 150 pounds over a standard Challenger V6. And so, a little bit of a weight penalty, but again, for those that are buying this, you want the all-wheel drive traction, it's well worth the additional, couple of pounds there in order to have those front wheels be driven. And so, whenever you're just cruising around, though, it obviously feels very much like any other Challenger. On straighter portions like this right now, it's just a great cruiser. I mean, all these muscle cars are great cruisers, but especially the Challenger here with its great visibility. It's a little bit of a higher seating position. It's just really nice for, cruising down the highway and stuff. They're just great grand tours. And so that's obviously still the same here with the GT. Still very refined in here, pretty quiet. You don't hear too much wind noise or anything like that. And so overall, it's really pretty nice. And it is interesting, though, that it does intelligently try and go between rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. And I have the display to show me what's going on with it exactly. And even though I'm in normal mode now, it still has decided to put in the all-wheel drive because it sensed, I guess, whenever I floored it back there, that it needed the additional grip. And so it activated that for us here. So we'll get a good idea of what it's like here with the additional grip as we're going around some corners here. We'll put it into sport mode, see if that kind of firms things up a little bit here. And one thing that you always notice about the Challengers is all of them have a really quick throttle response that I really love, and it feels very sensitive to your inputs, which I love. Brakes are the same way. It really gives you a lot of bite right at the top of the pedal, so you never have any doubt about your braking abilities. And steering is also pretty good. It's a little bit on the lighter side, but it is in line with what you would expect for the GT version, not a Hellcat or something like that. And it's a good feeling wheel too. I think you got a good amount of feel through it so far. Haven't pushed it too much in the corners here, but overall it feels pretty nice so far. All right, now we're coming up to some tighter corners, and let's see how this thing handles. So you can certainly feel the weight, and there's a little bit of body roll, I guess you could call it. But it feels pretty put together. Again, as much as a car, a two-door vehicle that's 4,100 pounds can feel, but it actually feels pretty good. I think a lot of the flex that I was feeling there, which isn't a lot by the way, but the little bit I was feeling, I think is also partially due to these tires. This obviously, since this is the all-wheel drive version, they want to have all-season tires on it, and so that's what this has. Are 235 wide Michelin all-season tires, so you're not going to have the greatest of grip. And if you want better grip, you could always put summer tires on and then turn it into an all-wheel drive beast in the snow with actual snow tires as well. But these all-seasons are a nice compromise. They're quiet, smooth tires and feel pretty good. Again, this is probably not the Challenger you're going to pick if you want to bomb down a back road. Challengers have always been best suited as cruisers and not back road carvers. I think the Mustang and the Camaro have it beat as far as handling goes, pretty handily. And so, but these still handle really well. I've driven other Challengers on track even, and they are very poised, especially the higher performing ones here. Whereas this one is supposed to, give you some of the performance. I mean, 305 horsepower and 6.3 seconds 0 to 60 is still not slow, but it's again about just being a good commuter car, something you can drive in all 4 seasons, and still have the comfort and the luxury here with the GT. And the owner said even like this one has, the heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, all that kind of stuff, and that all comes with the GT package. So it's basically like a fully loaded car right off the bat. And so it's a really nicely equipped car. It's drives pretty nice here so far. We're going around some more corners here, and I'm not pushing it or anything because again, the Challenger, that's never been its strong suit. But I mean, whenever you are in a hurry and you need to hustle it through some corners, it'll do just fine. I mean, it's again no BRZ or FRS or WXSTI or anything like that. But for what it is, it does a pretty good job here. And even whenever this all-wheel drive system does kick on, it is still rear-wheel drive biased, so it's always still wanting to act like a rear-wheel drive car as much as possible while still giving you that additional grip that you're looking for with the GT model. And now that we're turned onto a straight road, let's see about this acceleration in sport mode now. Nice firm upshifts. It's just pretty quick too, by the way. By the way, the GT is only automatic. You cannot get the all-wheel drive with the manual. But anyway, with this automatic, it's not really a penalty box of an automatic either. I mean, it's an 8-speed ZF Torque Flight automatic, very quick shifts. Actually, the fastest out of the muscle cars, at least for 2017 here. Maybe the 2018s will be better, with the new 10-speed Mustang and stuff. But this automatic right now is still really basically the best one out of the 3, in my opinion. It's really quick, does a really good job. Whenever you do even go into manual mode, I mean, it's very snappy with its downshifts. I mean, there's a tiny second or two to wait. It's not as fast as, a DSG from a Volkswagen or PDK or anything like that. But, I mean, upshifts are almost immediate, and, it's plenty of shifting prowess, again, for something like this that you're not going to be, driving super aggressively. And it does feel a tad bit slower, though, with the shifting than the Scat Pack automatic that I did have last year as a press car. So maybe there's a difference in tuning there on the automatics between the different Challenger models. But again, this is still plenty quick for the occasional, paddle shifting. I don't know if you want to drive in manual all the time, but this automatic is pretty intelligent. It figures itself out pretty quickly here, so that all you have to do is just leave it in auto, put it in sport mode, and you can even turn up the transmission in the settings here and make it even more aggressive, and then you're set. But yeah, out on a straight road here now, just kind of cruising, it does have very good pull for this V6. I always enjoy this V6. I tested this same motor in the Charger SXT that I had as a press car last year, and it was also the same kind of feeling as this, really. They drive very similar to the Charger and the Challenger, where, that engine especially, it loves the rev. It doesn't hesitate to downshift. It doesn't try and act like it has a ton of torque. You put your foot to the floor and it, boom, instantly goes to 4,700 RPMs and just pulls all the way up to that around 6,000 and 6,200 RPM red line there. So it's a strong performer. It makes the most of what it has. So it's very intelligent with the transmission tuning to maximize the output of this engine as best as it possibly can. And so it's plentiful. I wouldn't say that it knocks your socks off or blows you away, especially with all the other crazier Hellcats out there, and all the other Challenger variants, the Demon, and even the Scat Packs. Those will really wow you with the straight line performance. Whereas this, it's certainly just, again, gets you around pretty quickly, but it's not the sportiest of feelings But for, you know, merging onto the highway and trying to drive aggressively every once in a while, it's more than enough. You just gotta wait a little bit longer, but I mean, it's still, those last few hundred RPMs, though, it really rips, and it sounds great too, this engine. It could use a louder exhaust, you know, if you were to, you know, keep in the lower RPMs, but whenever it does get to those higher RPMs, you get that great induction noise of this V6 that I actually really like. I mean, yes, I know some people won't like the fact that it's a V6 Challenger and just discount it immediately for that, but if you actually drive one of these, it's very respectable. You have to remember that, you know, not even 10 years ago, you know, the Mustang GTs with those V8s and the Camaros and stuff, those all barely had 300 horsepower, and now we get that in a base model V6, you know, so you know, this is nothing to really frown at. I think it's still plentiful and, you know, plenty of fun for most people with traffic and, you know, speed limits. If you want to keep your license and stuff, it's still fun. I mean, obviously, sure, everyone would love to have the V8 and the sounds and the extra power, but, you know, if you need to make that compromise, you really do need the all-wheel drive, then I certainly feel like this is still worth owning and still, you know, is a great way to get into one of these muscle cars without having to worry about, you know, driving in deep snow and starting on hills and being terrified with having a rear-wheel drive car. So I'm just really glad that Dodge has even offered this. I think it's so cool, you know, that they're going against the status quo of, you know, muscle cars having to be rear-wheel drive and V8, and, you know, they're doing the V6 with the all-wheel drive here, and I think it really opens up the market for way more people that could never even consider these, and that's really cool because it means more people can enjoy these muscle cars here and aren't forced into a Subaru or something like that. Not that those are bad, and, you know, every car has its strengths and weaknesses, but just I think it's actually pretty genius of Dodge personally, and I'll be very curious to see this winter how these things sell because it's a great idea, and yeah, we'll have to see how many people go for it. But I'm personally pretty impressed with it. So huge thanks to Harold for allowing me to drive his today. Like I said, it's a really great car and well worth a test drive for anyone that would like an all-wheel drive muscle car. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.